I signed the petition because I believe in paying for good government. We need to do more, not less. We should be growing, not shrinking. I want our country to dream and achieve great things. As John Kennedy said, if a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich.
One of the objections that people have to raising taxes on rich people is that they have this idea that rich people deserve the money that they get. They got it through hard work and risk-taking, and that if you're poor, it's because you're not willing to work hard and you're not willing to take risks. Last year, my wife and I took a cruise that went to Vietnam. And as we were pulling out of port, we looked over the side of the ship and there was a woman there in a small boat that was made out of woven reeds, nothing more really than a big basket. And she was looking up at the passengers 50 feet above her, raising her hands up in supplication, hoping that we would toss her something. I don't know what she imagined that we would be able to do for her from that height, because there was no guarantee that even if we threw her something that it wouldn't just land in the water. But this cruise ship, 50,000 ton displacement, pulled out of the port, and she was still paddling alongside it. And we had to maneuver in the port for a while in order to get turned around. And ultimately, they had to send a tugboat to chase her away because we were about to run her down. And when we finally got turned around and heading out of the harbor, we were doing about 20 knots and she was still chasing after us. Of course, it was completely hopeless to catch us at that point, but she was paddling and her little basket boat was leaking, so every now and then she had to stop and bail. It really makes me angry when people say that poor people are poor because they're lazy or not willing to take risks. It's important to remember that rich people are not the cause of a robust economy, they're the result of a robust economy. And I personally feel like I've gotten to where I am in large part because I was supported by this terrific infrastructure that exists here in the United States. So I didn't have to worry about food or my health or drinking the water out of the tap or being able to get from A to B. That was all essentially handed to me on a silver platter. And I really feel like I now have a duty, now that I have the means, to help pay for maintaining that infrastructure for the next generation. The kids who are dreaming about starting their next startup or becoming doctors or artists or musicians, like work here in this wonderful studio that David has built. I guess that's it.
Hello, my name is Mike, and I'm fortunate to be a millionaire. I haven't always been a millionaire, and when I wasn't a millionaire, I paid taxes like you, and I grumbled about taxes like you do. Now that I'm a millionaire, I see no reason not to tax millionaire income more highly than other income. And that's because my basic needs are met, as are those of other people in high income brackets. My house is paid off, my cars are paid off, I can handle my medical bills, and I can take care of my children and make sure they get a good education. And it's really not a burden on me to have income taxed an additional 4 or 5 or even 10%. There's no reason not to do it. I see no reason not to, and I hope you'll agree. Thanks.
I'm a millionaire. My government gave me student loans, and I got a great education. The Small Business Administration lent money to my company, which then made me millions. I want to contribute.
I've lived in places and seen places without big government. Governments don't work, that don't pave their streets, that don't take care of their people, that don't feed their people, that don't have good medical care, and that's a quality of life issue. Look, I've got a lot of money. I want to live in the best place I can. Does it require big government? It certainly requires some government. It requires revenue. I think we're doing an amazingly good job of providing record level of services with a record low tax rates, and it's got to give somewhere. We're conducting at least 2 wars right now. Look at World War II. Tax rates went through the roof to pay for it afterwards. The spending and the taxing sides need to meet each other. I don't think it's outrageous to ask people who are making a lot of money to pay a little bit higher tax rates.
The thing that isn't spoken to very often is that those communities contribute a lot more to my personal success of my projects than I do. They have created, the U.S. has created just an incredible system within which my enterprise, all business enterprises, are embedded. And those systems include the educational system, the legal and system. So I think that's what I have to say. And basically it's that we need to increase taxes, and particularly on those like me that can afford it, and I can't afford it. So please do whatever is in your power to cause the U.S. government to change its taxation policies. Thanks a lot. Bye.
There are thousands and thousands and thousands of very well-off people with very high incomes whose effective tax rate is substantially below the middle class, the lower middle class, and lower wage earners. So there's a fundamental inequity, and it contradicts the progressive nature of our Internal Revenue Code and of our tax policies over generations in this country. It is in our interest as a country to put our fiscal house in better order.
Simply put, I've signed the Patriotic Millionaires letter because it is and was the right thing to do. The country is engaged in an intellectually dishonest shouting match, and it is time to revert to a fact and value-based discussion. I believe that in America, the difference between the haves and have-nots might relate to material objects or private schools, but should never amount to meaning that some Americans should go without food, shelter, or health care. Yet we are facing difficult fiscal challenges that require complex solutions. Nothing is as easy as saying cut spending, or cut or raise taxes, or reduce the size of government. All of these things need to be mixed together with balance and care for our core values as a nation.
It's probably the easiest letter I've ever signed. The income inequality in the United States today is simply unprecedented. We began keeping track of this very important statistic way back in 1928, and here we sit in the year 2011. And there's more income appreciation, accumulation, earning at the very top of our society than at any time in its history. This is simply unacceptable for a democracy and for a large economy such as ours, but it's also patently unfair. We need a world where a woman or man is paid fairly for their work, and those who bring value to society, and the wealthy do in many occasions, are not overcompensated because of unfair tax practices, their own lobbying on behalf of their own initiatives, and just a general unfairness that's crept into the system.
Hi, my name's Peter Norvig, and I want to tell you why I support the Patriotic Millionaires' proposal of increasing my tax rate and the rate for others like me. I'm a millionaire because of our society, so I'm willing to invest in our society. I've been able to help start companies that create things that people want, but I couldn't have done that if I wasn't educated at public schools and libraries, if my safety wasn't protected by the police and military, and I benefited from publicly funded roads and computer networks that keep commerce flowing. If those things hadn't been made, if those before me hadn't made those investments, paid for by taxes, I'd be struggling to survive, not a millionaire. This nation was founded on a promise to promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. The previous generation kept that promise for me, and now it's my turn to deliver.
Hi, my name is Frank, and I want to tell you why I signed the letter for the Patriotic Millionaires. A few years ago, I joined a little company, a startup, and I actually was just very lucky to have a job at the time because it was the end of the dot-com bust. I had been unemployed for 2 months, And I was about the 200th person to join this little company, and so I was quite sure that that was far too late in its history to ever make any money for me. But I was just glad to have a job. 4 years later, that company became one of the most wildly successful companies in the history of America. And I retired and sold a good bit of the stock options that I had earned in that time. And at the time, Bush had just a few years earlier reduced the capital gains tax from 20% to 15%. That 5%, it turns out, represented, say, a savings to me of millions of dollars. Did I really need those few extra millions? Well, in fact, no, I didn't. I would have been happy with just enough to retire. In fact, when I found out I was going to be getting a lot more than I needed to retire, I decided to give a lot of my stock options away to my daughters and other family members. And so I was able to share the newfound wealth and with people I really care about. We shouldn't be wallowing in our riches while everybody else is suffering. It is simply unfathomable to me that we could be in this condition. So, and not feel a responsibility as the wealthiest Americans to take care of our country. People say, well, aren't you interested in furthering yourself? I mean, most people are, and yeah, sure, you've been successful, but wouldn't you want to do more and get more? Well, I look around and I say, what's going to get us more? A healthy economy. What's going to get us more? A happy population. The division of wealth concentrated in the top 1%. And taking away from the middle class, destroying the middle class, is going to destroy all our markets. There's not going to be anybody for us wealthy people to buy from because they're all going to go out of business. If you want to be self-interested, you better be self-interested with wisdom, and you better take care of the rest of the country so that you have a country to live in and enjoy your wealth. Extending the Bush tax cuts to the wealthy is simply not a good idea. It's not a good idea for anybody. It's not even a good idea for the people who are getting those tax cuts. It's a bad idea for America, and that's why I signed the letter of the Patriotic Millionaires.